Good morning and welcome back to another episode of Tangents with Tyler and Todd. I am one of your hosts, Tyler.
And I'm Darcy.
And I'm Jer.
And I'm Todd. How was your week?
Great.
Thanks for asking. Yeah, no, it was okay.
It was good. It was good until 2 seconds ago.
Oh, shady.
You know what? I feel like they're not going to leave us alone, so maybe we should just go to the lake.
Yeah. You want to do that?
Sure.
All right, everyone, welcome back. It's a little bit more comfortable here now.
9 hours later.
It takes a little bit to set everything up.
Yeah.
Especially when there's only one person doing it.
And 3 people getting distracted.
There is a really good reason why it took so long. And I wanted to wait and actually say this to you very genuinely in person. The show was we were mind blown.
It was amazing.
We looked at each other in the intermission and we were like, they are absolute stars. I told you that I got emotional during the show, but it was so good. And then now I felt like pressure, like, oh my God, you guys are unbelievable for real.
But
That's really
after
sweet.
the second act, we were like, thank God we didn't pay for the tickets.
That's usually how it goes.
That's really, why do you think we called
these two are so professional. Maybe not.
Yeah, they had us strict in the first half, but the second half, we saw their true colors.
They got distracted.
It's why we called it the No Refunds Tour, because we were like, eventually they're going to put it together.
If you're wondering who is here with us right now, this is Darcy and Jer. They've been our friends for the last few years. They do a very similar thing for a living. They create videos online.
I don't think we put near as much effort.
We film silly little clips.
We're just kind of dumb on the internet, whereas you guys are expensively dumb on the internet. Oh, too
Would they
real.
have a continuous story?
Yeah.
We're like,
we're going to do this. Yeah, we're going to do this for now. Thank you for that. It was, I genuinely don't remember Jer and I being more excited and more nervous to have 2 people in the audience at a show. It really...
I think there's only maybe 1 or 2 other shows where I was genuinely nervous because I knew who was in the audience.
Yeah, we were both just like, we just got to do right. We just got to do right. You know, we were just like, oh, otherwise it's going to be so awkward when we're at their house, right?
If you just bombed.
Right? Yeah, I've been there. I've done it for years. Like the amount of shows I've had friends and family come to that just didn't work out, and it just
usually
wasn't
any show
good.
I went to.
And also, just to back up, tell them about your comedy history, like where you got your start.
I started oh my goodness, we've been
You
together.
started at our wedding.
Yeah. It was our speech, my wedding speech was the first kind of inkling to stand up. Maybe 6 weeks after our wedding, Jer was like, you were really good. Like, you should take this stand-up comedy course at the college. And so he bought it.
Mm-hmm.
Technically, you paid for half at that point.
No, I really didn't. No. He bought it. And then I did this 6-week writing course, and it ended with a performance in front of friends and family. So it was 10 comedians that took this course, and we all went and did 5 minutes of material. And the entire audience.
The instructor obviously put Darcy as the headliner.
It was really funny. But the entire audience was basically just friends and family of mine. And I, after that show at a little coffee shop, was so confident. I went home and my best friend Bill bought darcymichael.com for me because I was like, I'm going to be a star.
Like the crowd at the coffee shop?
I was just like, oh yeah, I need to do this because, I'm going to be on the Tonight Show in this year kind of thing. I was just meanwhile, I'd never even, I think quietly confident.
Yeah.
Not even quiet
I think
about
we all need to be a little bit delusional to
do helps us get for sure, I guess, but it was definitely it was 17 18 years ago when I started.
What did you want to do before that? Where?
I was a designer, interior design, so that's what
the home staging.
I had a home staging company. I had a partnership with Benjamin Moore.
Wow.
So I was doing that, but I was always a performer. I always liked theater. I did it through high school and stuff, but then got distracted by this one when we were young and kind of was like, I don't know what to do. And then it was 3 or 4 years after
When I
did
met, he was a
that.
manager at a call center.
Yeah, gross. Could you imagine me as a supervisor at a call center? HR and I talked a lot. A lot. I remember the same friend, Bill, that bought the website. He worked with me at this call center, and on the weekends we could dress casual. And I was standing talking like to one of my employees she's sitting at her desk, right? So I'm standing in front of her, and Bill comes along and pants me. I was wearing track pants and I was not wearing underwear. And I'm just standing in front of this employee with my junk facing her. It was like, anyway, she's still a big fan. She comes to shows all the time, so everything's fine. Love you, Amanda.
Darcy and Jer also go on tangents as well. So
Yeah, it's going to be, sorry, I don't even remember what the question was, but I win. You gave me coffee. It's 10 p.m. at night. You've got me for 45 minutes, and then I'm going to bed.
I think the question was how you got your start in comedy.
I just
And we
told
ended
them.
up getting pants.
Oh, yeah, that was a little side note. Okay, ADHD side quest is going to happen.
Yeah. Todd and Darcy are very, very similar. I find in your storytelling and kind of like how you get there, it's always a roundabout way, but
We're going to
sometimes
get there eventually.
But you
Yeah.
need context of like where you've been and what
Yeah.
you've seen or who you've shown yourself to.
If by the time you and I get past that, it's noon and the day can start.
It's like pull up a chair.
I would like to point out before we get too deep into it how complicated the miking situation was because of knowing that Todd and I are just going to scream laugh at each other most of the time.
Yeah.
So if it doesn't go well, we'll blame Tyler and Jer.
just the production of it. Like I want to make sure it looks good. I want to make sure it sounds good. It's an important element.
Absolutely.
But it's been eye-opening for me being here watching your process. I've really enjoyed it on how professional you are and how different it is from our process.
I was like, I could feel the shade coming. The second he's like, and
Where
how
are we going?
professional it was like, bitch, you better sit back. You better sit back and just look pretty, sip your coffee.
But you can tell in your videos that you put the time and effort into it.
And you can tell in ours that we are in them.
You're there.
We are. That is Darcy in a video.
But I think that that's the cool thing about what we all do for a living is everyone has their own little corner of the internet, and we're all
There's no right way to do it.
exactly. We're all just figuring out our way, telling our stories in the way that we like, which is I just think it's so cool what we all do for a living.
I think that's why it's resonating with people more too than like traditional media, because that's such a corporate structure
Yeah.
and like a rigid process, as you know, from like having worked in it.
Yeah. Oh, it's terrible. I don't know if I could go back to it anymore. Like, I think I've seen this creative freedom, like true creative freedom to just do what we want in the constructs or the confines of each app's guidelines and yada yada. Because there's definitely, we've had a few violations over the years where I'm like,
We're a little
"Oh,
salty sometimes.
get a little salty.
Oops, wrong app.
But you know
That
what?
was for Grinder.
I do want to come back to something, but just a little quick tangent on that. It is true. Sometimes we'll violate Instagram's guidelines or YouTube's guidelines. We did a really creative video that I was proud of the shower and all of that. And
I was proud of that one too.
So just for context, we built a off-grid shower that
It was in the middle of the woods.
it was in the middle of the woods, and it was just so magical and beautiful, but it got flagged as inappropriate content, and nothing about it was inappropriate. It was so beautifully shot.
I mean, we did end it with having sex. That might have flagged it.
It gave it a little, I wouldn't say a red flag, because in my head I was like, green flag,
Just
go.
got a rise out of some people.
but it is
It
interesting.
stimulated engagement.
It is interesting though how even though what we all do for a living, we can create anything that we want, there are certain things that we can or cannot do.
For sure.
Like
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
guidelines. But I had a question about that. I was going to ask you about when you were an actor, and because you also did that in addition to being a comedian.
Yeah.
Did you ever have, like studios or executives say like, this is sort of the expectation of how the character needs to come across that you didn't necessarily agree with?
I definitely had creative differences with the writing on the sitcom a few times. There was one, like, they were always good about what I was doing with the character. They always trusted my instincts, but I can't remember the politician. It was an American politician. Oh, it was Newt Gingrich. He was going to guest star on an episode because he was friends with the director. It was so random. But in the episode, my character was fawning over Newt. Newt was playing himself. And Newt has been, like, I think he's dead now. I don't know. But he was very much alive.
Rest in peace.
Rest.
I don't think he's dead, is he?
Oh, well.
Maybe. I don't know. He's probably resting.
Hopefully
not in peace.
He's been notoriously homophobic for most of his career. And I just said to the executives, was like, I don't care if it's a character. Me being on stage, on TV, fawning over this person is something I won't do. And then I remember Dave Foley really had my back on that one. And he was like, let's just walk. And I was like, what do you mean? He's like, let's just start walking to the end of the parking lot and see what happens. And by the time we got to the gate of the studio, they had canceled it.
Wow.
So I think that was like, the only other time was Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Because they were like, just do whatever you want in this scene for Diary of a Wimpy Kid. And I didn't know the story. I didn't know it was for Disney or that it was for kids. And so I just did a take and I swore. I was like, motherfucker. And they like shut everything stopped.
Like, sorry to the kids listening.
Yeah. Everything. It wasn't even that they said cut, like microphones were dropped. They were like, dude, I was like, sorry, you just said to do whatever I wanted.
I kept my pants on. What more did you want?
Do you find that, though, a big difference now that you don't have to answer to anyone, that both of you decide?
Like, part of the thing was always like, I knew we could gain success doing the comedy I wanted to do, but I could never get networks to take that risk.
Yeah.
And so it was just like, okay, well, just keep doing what we're doing. And then lo and behold, Jer comes along and starts filming me for clout. And here we are.
I
just got tired of waiting. I'm like,
I got tired of you on these coattails.
And I was like, is this guy ever gonna make it? Like
you had to step in at a certain point.
Yeah.
Like
you have to. It's like, I'm not getting any younger.
Well, I mean, you can only watch a fish flail on the side for so long before you step in to help.
Pot, kettle, cheers.
See, you've got the pressure of being the first name. I'm just an and. Like, I just show up.
Embrace the and.
Yeah.
Like, it's great. Life is better here.
It's because we've got two-syllable names. You guys get the and Jer and Todd.
The two syllables. Saying Todd and Tyler. Yeah, same. Our last name, Gibbon, Thorne.
That's why we went that order, because Thorne Gibbon didn't sound right.
Yeah. You got to get
you guys could be Todd and Tyler Thorngibbon. It sounds like no.
They
sounds
sound
like
miserable.
It sounds like a Game of Thrones character.
Oh,
Tyler Todd Thorngibbon, please come and kneel towards the house. Whereas I'm just like Dorothy McCoy. Who can feel threatened by that?
You just said your last name and you don't normally say that in public.
Oh, I don't care. I've said it enough in public now.
In case you're wondering, that's
And what's your social insurance number?
As if I know.
Tyler knows mine, luckily.
Yeah, I have to memorize my social insurance number and Todd.
Yeah, Jer has them
I
written down.
memorized my social insurance number because I'm so old. When I was registering for university classes, it was on phone and you had to punch it in every time you were going to pick a course.
That seems dicey.
So now I know that, but it burned into my memory that I had to punch in my social insurance number.
Neither one of us know our daughter's phone number.
At all?
It's not a number that I needed when I was in
we just go, hey Siri, call Grace.
We got new phone numbers.
Nova I don't even know my own number.
Yeah. If
I
someone
have 4
interrupts
phone
me,
numbers for both of you in my phone, and I don't know which one to text. I have to wait for one of you to text me, and then I go, oh, thank God. Here's some things on my mind that I've been wanting to ask you, but I don't know what your number is.
It's been 2 years.
Okay, so I think it's safe to say we landed on another tangent.
Oh yeah, what were we talking about?
What were we going on about?
Game of Thrones?
Oh, we were talking about acting. Did you guys ever do any theater or anything in high school?
I certainly tried. I wanted to be involved in musical theater, but
Can you sing?
No, I wouldn't say.
I'm joking. You can.
I can sing a little bit, but it's not like I would be.
Side tangent. Jer and his best friend Diana tried to convince me to audition for Canadian Idol because they thought it'd be funny to watch me bomb. They convinced me I could sing.
That you could
Yeah,
sing,
they were
but you
like,
can
"Oh my
sing,
god,
good
you
for
sound
one line."
so good."
Did you believe them?
Yeah, I was like, "Yeah, you
We
know what?
almost had
Maybe."
him there.
I was like,
we were playing the long con.
Oh, they were having the
whole
good
season.
time.
We were like, you are so much better
Yeah.
than this person.
Do you remember Jenny Gear?
Yeah.
People were like, she cannot sing. She cannot sing. My parents, Jenny Gear, when she was on Canadian Idol, this is a tangent on a tangent on a tangent. They were in love with her.
Really?
Couldn't get over her. And I was like, I don't see it.
Yeah. Whatever happened to her?
Well, whatever happened to anyone on Canadian Idol?
Whatever happened to Canadian
I mean,
Idol itself?
Here we are.
Yeah.
Here
Could have
you
been
are.
me. Could have
Yeah.
been me.
They didn't have a star.
They needed it. They needed it.
Well, Carly Rae Jepsen.
She was on Canadian Idol.
Oh, and
There was
then-
another person, but we won't even say
go
his
into
name.
that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need to give
Yeah.
him any time of day.
Well, for the 5% of you that are from Canada watching this,
That's been a walk down memory lane.
on Canadian pop culture.
Have been
How
Darcy.
did we get there?
It could have been Darcy.
Oh, we were talking about you singing, and then it became
yeah.
a story about me.
Yeah, on brand.
Let's time it. You guys start telling a story about yourselves and see how long it becomes about me.
But Todd, were you involved in like musical theater and stuff? And
Oh
job,
yeah.
you brought us back.
No, like I did a high school play.
What play?
Rent.
Oh,
that's pretty
no,
gay.
No, it was no Rent. I did stage crew. I did 1 year. It was the one with Footloose.
Oh, okay.
I didn't like that. I didn't like being on the stage.
I did Footloose,
but I
too.
enjoyed the stage like crew because I got to hang out with my friends. There was no pressure because no one saw us, and I still got to go to the after party.
that's
Best thing.
That's similar to mine. Like I'm gonna turn it on me now.
You've been here all weekend. We're used to
all
this.
my
Jer's
all my
talking
friends-
again, guys. Here we go.
all my friends were in the theater or stage craft and stuff like that, and I wanted to be so bad, but I didn't have any talent in my mind. And I finally did get one. I've talked about this before. I got one musical. It was a barbershop quartet, and I was so excited to be on it. And then during rehearsals, it just ended up they canceled the play.
Jer sounds like a basset hound in the microwave when he
I was
sings.
like, I missed my big moment.
Like there's still some sort of melody, but it's not quite right.
But yeah, that was my only time on stage before our tour.
What was the
Wow.
reason you were attracted to it, though? Was it like the community of people?
It's just you could be who you wanted to be
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
the
those little
theater.
freak
There was
shows.
no judging. Like everyone
Yeah.
was a little bit weird.
I think that's what I love so much about social media and like what we're creating is this community of people that are watching this. It's so like-minded, and it's just a group of people that,
We never would have met
yeah,
Ever.
exactly.
any other way.
If
Like-
not for social media.
And so now at least we have something to blame.
But do you feel that way
And we
about
do.
like your audience? You call them
Creeps.
the creeps, yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, we don't have a name for ours. It's just
No.
we
I
should.
could tell them the names you guys use behind their backs if you'd like. Do you want to? Bunch of freeloaders. Why don't you join the Patreon for once, you cheap sons of bitches?
That's what we were talking about. You.
But the community that you've built, do you find that that's been like, not to get too deep here, but is that a significant part of why you're doing what you're doing still?
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's super rewarding. Like,
We didn't expect it to like because you grow up hearing don't read the comments, don't read the
Yeah.
comments, don't read the comments. But we're very lucky in our comment section because
It's the best part.
Yeah.
community.
our first comment on a TikTok video was "Okay, Boomer," and I burst out laughing because it was a clip from my stand-up special, and I was like, "Oh, I'm just gonna put it out." And then some kid wrote "Okay, Boomer," and almost immediately 3 other people replied to that comment, being like, "I'll listen to this Boomer make me laugh any day." And I was just like, "Oh."
Yeah.
Oh, what's happening here?
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is different. This is not what have come to expect.
It's not just, I used to think that the comment section would be someone would leave a comment and then they would leave
Forever.
They would cut the browser, close
Yeah.
it, and move on. But people leave a comment and then they're constantly refreshing and it becomes like a conversation.
For sure.
It's a community.
It's a community, which that I really didn't expect that going into this.
Some people get so
But having
mad.
a Patreon account is great because that gives your community a chance to talk to each other.
I find it's also like
You guys are going to pay us for mentioning the Patreon, right? Like it's
check's already in the mail.
it's cash only. I've worked with you before. Yeah,
The payment terms are not favorable.
We're not doing a net 90 here, honey. We're doing a net now. Okay, podcast is paused. We'll wait.
Do you have a machine? Do you take like terminal?
20% tip.
I just find what I enjoyed about it is it's such a cocoon, the whole social media thing, like in a world that's gone crazy and there's so much negativity. But I think it's also because we all create positive content, which attracts.
I always say we're really spoiled. Like when we go to a show to do, like it's hard to, we're always nervous because we want to make sure, you know, like Jer and I have mad respect for the fact that people make plans to come and spend time with us in person, like whether it's getting a sitter or whether it's, you know, going out for dinner or whether it's like you guys making us get you a hotel room for the night.
If
that must have been exhausting. Sending that text.
Well, we had to follow up twice.
Late
But
checkout.
even if it's just getting the ticket to go out, because you don't know people's situations and times are tough right now.
But
so like going to a show, that could be their one outing that month or even that like quarter.
For sure. But like the point I was making was that we get nervous to that degree, but then at the same time, I always tell Jer, I'm like, we're about to walk out to 1,000 like-minded people, all with the same goal in mind, and that's to have the best fucking time we can have today. And there's just something that like you can feel it from the bottom of your feet to the tip of your head where you're like, let's go.
We don't make people pay to see us, but we get the same feeling with our Sunday videos.
Try it sometime.
But it's like they're waiting, you know, like
there's certain sites you could make quite a lot of money doing that.
Links down below.
I totally agree. Even though, I mean, going to a show, physically going there, it is a different investment of time, but everyone that's watching this right now, it's not lost on us. It's an hour of your day
you're choosing to give up other things.
We always just say thanks for hanging out.
Like it's a cool feeling.
When I left my corporate job, we said that we want to work in the currency of time, and people that view our content or come to our show are using that currency to spend with us, and we're
like whether they use like watch some videos online or come to the show, it's still like they're paying with their time, and they're all working with limited.
Just on that, like before you started creating content full time, you had a very creative, artistic job, but you had a similar setup to what Todd and I had, like the office,
the
9 to 5.
6.
Did you ever find yourself like? How did you get there? Did you were you creative but just kind of went in that?
I always wanted to be creative, but I never really was. My brain doesn't fully work that way. I'm more analytical and things like that. But
you were happiest as a server.
Yeah.
Like when Jer was a server,
because it felt like I could be free and I could like it was just a family restaurant, and I would
like a waiter at a table,
and I would just run around, throwing my tray up, catching it, dancing away to the music that was going on as I was serving. But it was like
a little bit.
I got to be outside of my comfort zone at that point, and because I'm not typically extroverted, but at the end of my shift, I was done. I was exhausted. I needed that recharge.
You left it all on the floor.
Yeah.
Wow.
You got to work for those tips. Especially when it's like the meals aren't that pricey in a family restaurant, breakfast and lunch.
True.
You need to like work for it, and they need their coffee.
Yeah. See, ours was, we waited tables, but it was at the university bar. So instead of like doing dance tricks and full numbers, we were
hand jobs.
Yeah. You know, you got to get the tips up. No, I found what we did is we would run. Like we couldn't do
it was a volume game.
It was a volume game. So we were trying to turn the tables as quickly as we could. So
that's why I did the morning shift. at the restaurant because I'm like, well, if it's a $20 breakfast, I'm getting, at the time it was like 10% tips. So it was like $2 to $3. But if I did dinner and it was $25, I'm still getting the same tip. And they're staying there for a lot longer.
It's true. Like we liked lunch shifts. And then if there was a night thing going on, like trivia night, that'd be better. But if you had a supper, like they linger.
There really is something to be said. If you've waited tables, if you've bartended, that food industry, the hustle, how it takes a lot.
I wouldn't
Like,
know.
Yeah, well.
Some of us had jobs.
You've been to restaurants.
I've been to them a lot of the time, and I have to say I have some notes. There's some things that could be improved.
But I also, this is way off topic. but
Oh
like,
my goodness.
Welcome
I
to the
also,
podcast.
when I go to a restaurant and a server's having, like you can tell when a server's having a bad day. I make up a story. In my
we
head.
throw all the
Like,
money at
they
them.
just got dumped, like, or someone just died in their family, and but they can't afford not to come into work, and they're here doing it, struggling through it.
The amount of times that Jer and I will
I'm
both
like crying in the restaurant.
Yeah, the amount of times Jer and I will both be at dinner or somewhere together and clock the same situation and build different stories in our head about what we think's happening, and
We
we
love
look at
doing
each
that.
other and we both have tears, and it's like, I know it's a death, right? And yeah, I feel it. You know, like that's what's holding her back.
But we do love making stories for people. Like we will go to a restaurant and leave our phones at home and just
People
the best
watch.
ones are that are 2-level restaurants where you can sit at the bar and just
Oh,
look
the people watching?
and people
And we
watch.
just do the conversations.
Are you big people watchers too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's well, we spend so much time in airports, like literally almost every day.
Yeah.
Like I don't even know how many flights we've taken this year, but so to be in an airport and just watch people reuniting or saying goodbye, it's so fun.
There's always a lawyer and a realtor in my head, and usually there's an affair going on.
Oh, there's always an
Always an
affair.
affair.
That's why there's a death.
So bringing it back around though. So
I had a corporate job.
yeah, like you're the thing is,
Yeah, he did for a while. Anyways,
can you imagine if you two had a podcast?
Todd and I. Oh, it would be fantastic.
What are you doing?
Oh, I don't know. We'd never get around to recording it.
What?
And someone's got to set the mics
Go
up.
play Lego.
My dad said, if your mom says it's okay, we can go play Lego.
My mom says it's okay, but we can't eat any this time.
We're still missing that one piece.
Yeah, it's coming. Just give me time. I look every day. It was green. I'll find it. Sorry.
Are we done?
I forgot.
We're done. Okay.
Done with the Lego poops.
So that experience though of leaving corporate, 9 to 5, the assurance of it all. What was that like?
Oh, it was so terrifying. And we had talked about it.
For years.
No, like
Okay.
seriously talked about
Not really
it.
yes ending, are we?
But I mean, like when our TikTok started taking off,
Oh yeah.
we had talked about it like probably
Well, back
6 to
up for a
7
second
months.
though, because there had already been years before, like the second
Yeah.
season of Spun Out. We were like, "Hey, we're finally getting ourselves."
What's that? We got to give audience context. What's
The
Spun
Spun
Out?
Out was the sitcom that I did with Dave Foley for a couple years on CTV. So Dave
Canadian
gave
network.
Yeah, Dave gave really good advice to me early on, and he was like, the first season, just pay off as much of your debt. Second season, bank everything and buy yourself something small. He was like, don't buy a house until the third season. And thankfully, we didn't because it got canceled. We're like, oh, okay, good. Anyways, but we
But
had
then
talked
Darcy
about...
is so optimistic. Like when he first landed Spun Out, he was like, "You
quit your job.
quit your job,
Come hang
and come
out."
work and come hang out with me." And I was like, "It's Canadian TV. Let's give it a few seasons before we make any big."
That's fair. Like,
I
that's
guess because
responsible.
when you're on a show, it's really, or a movie, it's
Yeah.
gig to gig, where what we all do, this is the gig.
This is
like
the gig.
we
Yeah.
we are the network.
Yeah.
We get to control.
when we're canceled.
Yeah, which is
Probably by the end of this one.
yeah.
It's
not
a double
looking good.
whammy.
But yeah, so anyways, we had a few almost times where I was leaving, but then when social media took off for us, we were driving to your parents and I was like, maybe I'm ready to take that leap. I'm like, I'm in my 40s. If I don't take
Early.
the leap at the time, still. But anyways, but if I don't take the leap now, I'm not going to leave my job because I'll be too scared that I won't be able to find something else. If I leave it now, I feel like I could still land on my feet and find something pretty quick.
It's been 2 years.
How many years did you have in though with the company?
I was there for 12 years.
Yeah.
Like I find 10, like we left at 5 because we were scared that, we left a month before 5 because we were scared that once we hit 5, you're only just about to 10.
Yeah.
And then you're like, it's a 10-year pension. It's not much more to 15. And then before
he
you know
had
it,
golden handcuffs at that point. And I was like, at some point, you're going to be cheaper to replace than to pay out. And they will find a way to get rid of you because it's like your job hasn't changed, but your salary is 300% what it was when you started. So like, it's just a math game. Like,
So what was the start? So you had your acting experience, you were a comedian, then you said, like, I'm going to create a TikTok?
No, truthfully, the truth of the matter was one of my best friends died after she was sick for a while. And I just hit a block. Like I actually came to every show I did in Vancouver, and Vancouver was where I would work new material. She would always give me notes. It was like very much performing in Vancouver was tied to Ashley. And then she was gone and I hadn't planned any tours because I wanted to make sure I was home to kind of be there when she goes. And so then the idea of going and working on new material without having her in the audience, I was like, I don't want to do this right now. So I said to Jer, I was like, I'm going to take 6 months off. I'm just going to like exist. We had always put off doing a trip to Europe for like every year for years.
We just never could get enough time to do
Like
it.
life got in the way.
And it was always expensive and it's like, let's not take the risk and yada.
There'll be time later.
We were like, fuck it, let's go. Like I need to feel alive. Like I need a reset. So we went on this trip to Europe. Long story short, we came back. My parents had gotten a dog. We fell in love with it, a golden retriever. So we got a golden retriever. And I didn't know how to edit videos. And I wanted to be able to send our friends and family videos of our puppy. And I had heard about this app that people were using to edit videos called TikTok. And
can you spell that for me?
It's TikTok. TikTok. And so I started posting on Yuma's just to like post dumb dog videos. And then like I was so bad at social media. I think before all this, I maybe had 1,500 Instagram followers.
What year was this?
2019.
Okay.
The end of 2019.
Yeah, it was November 2019.
So just before the pandemic?
Yeah. And then in January 2019, Yuma went viral and I got,
being the mentally stable human you are,
I got incredibly jealous and was like, are you kidding me? 18 years in this industry and this little blonde bitch is trying to show up the family. So I started the Darcy Michael account on TikTok, posted a clip from my Crave special, Darcy Michael Goes to Church, available on YouTube.
Unless you're in Canada.
Unless you're in Canada, it's
geo-blocked.
Sorry about it. Anyways, overnight it got 2 million views, and it did something that none of the networks could do for me for 18 years, and that was find my audience. And it was like from that point on, like our first 10 videos were just in the millions, and then like slowed down for a bit, and we found the rhythm. But we never told any of our friends or family that we had this TikTok channel.
It was just for us.
We didn't link it to our Instagram. It wasn't until we were at 1 million followers that we were like, okay, let's tell people about it. It was literally just only people on TikTok. Like,
oh, it was so exciting when we got to the 1 million. Our daughter just happened to be like coming over for dinner that day. And then we hit 1 million and went live on TikTok. She understood because she knew what we were doing. But like,
because we went live that night and had like 25,000 people on the live just commenting and stuff. And Grace was like, oh, like this is different from just silly videos.
And how old is your daughter?
Different.
She's 25 now.
Yeah.
Yeah. She's I think you guys are closer to her age than ours.
Oh,
We
yeah.
totally are.
Yeah.
Totally.
So what is your relationship like with your fathers? Keep laughing the pain away. I'm just kidding. I met Timmy.
Yeah.
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 No, it's good.
It's good.
Yeah.
It's fine.
It's great, Dad. Everything's good.
We are very lucky in that sense.
I think I've heard it a few times a little bit, but not really the full story. Like, how did you two decide that you wanted to film
He's
for you
flipping
two?
the table.
Yeah, we're supposed to be asking the questions.
Answer him.
It was a really weird. We never.
You can save it for another episode if you need it, but
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
because our lives are so boring. We need the extra content.
Todd could talk the paint off a wall, so I don't think we'll ever run out of content.
Like, can you come to our new house? We do need to strip the paint.
Just put me in a room.
We had kind of a weird start. Like it wasn't a super intentional thing. We were renovating a house and we shared a photo on a personal Instagram page that I had just started. I'm not a big social media user, believe it or not. I'm an introvert. Like I've never
Same.
We're very private. Like,
very
Yeah.
private, yeah. But I started an Instagram page and then I shared a photo of Todd and I in a dumpster. We had just finished.
set the scene. It was a crack house that we had bought and we were renovating it. So we were splitting it into 2 units, an upstairs and a downstairs. We ended up moving into the basement and rented out the upstairs.
Yeah.
But
To try and our goal
Yeah.
was to try and get ahead and
yeah. And we were coming out of this period in our life where we were chasing weird goals and trying to start a family. We didn't need the big house. So
yeah.
we it was all like we had finished the demo ourselves. When we were gutting it, there was cocaine in the furnace and a machete in the ceiling.
Is that what helped you get the project done?
That's how we
Yeah.
did it in 2 hours.
But yeah, we shared that, but it was a public Instagram. So
Not knowing. We thought it was private and only family back east would see it.
it hit the explore page and I only had, I think maybe 50 followers, just close friends and family, but it hit the explore page and then sort of took off.
Yeah.
And then once it took off, it kind of grew legs and had a life of its own. But then we realized very quickly sharing photos, Instagram, not to shame anyone that's just sharing photos and stuff.
Here comes the tea.
But it is an incredibly different thing sharing a curated version of your life than what this is.
But
we can't make up who we are. We are who we are.
Instagram was different back then too. It was a lot more.
It was all stills.
It was
and
curated,
Yeah.
very.
Food
stylized,
pictures.
but it was
Yeah.
also very
Yeah.
high end photo shoots.
Yeah.
Which also I always look back at it and go, that's expensive.
Yeah.
So many of them hiring photographers and airbrushing everything.
Yeah.
Like,
and time consuming.
Yeah.
And it
And
sets
just
unrealistic
inauthentic.
expectations. And it was just a weird thing. So we realized super quickly, this is not going to be
What
our
we
lane.
want.
We want to have perspective. We want to share stories. We want to actually, do that. And I've said this, I think in a podcast before, but there's another creator, him, his name's Mark Miller.
Mhm.
And he always created these really beautiful videos that
vignettes.
vignettes.
Yeah.
It was beyond just of a couple vlog. And that was very common in our little corner of the internet where it's
Well, we had tried those things too. We had started it before we left on the road trip. We had dabbled with YouTube videos before, done the chapstick challenge or really trying to
we
play
don't
up.
talk about that anymore.
No,
that
'cause
never happened.
It's
I
gone.
want to see it so bad.
It's gone.
But it's when you
Play
start
it here.
play it right now. Link it here.
Link here.
When you start though as a creator, you don't know what your voice is
It's
yet.
10,000 hours. It doesn't matter what the creative job is. You're not good until you get to 10,000 hours.
On YouTube, they have this thing. Don't critique yourself until you've made 100 videos and you've posted 100 videos. Because to consistently do it and to show up every week and say, this is my perspective for the week. This is what I have to say.
I think what was huge for us, and I think it shocks a lot of people, is that we actually don't consume social media.
Yeah.
Like,
were
I go-
you surprised by that when you found that out?
a little.
I didn't because when I followed you,
I was more insulted. That's surprised.
You're the only account we follow on TikTok. So how insulted are you?
No, you guys just don't watch TikTok.
No, that's not true anymore. Remember So a little behind the scenes, we were drinking last night and we were just chatting. And
Who knew?
But you gave us a lot of recommendations of like, these are based on what we're interested in. These are people who you should follow. And the reason that we don't follow a lot of people online is because truthfully, everything that you're consuming online is so thought out and is so curated. And that is like the opposite of what we enjoy.
And I think like having like been at the land and going through that project, it was really hard for us when we'd watch videos that someone would create over a period of a month and be like, I renovated this or built this in 24 hours. And we're like, well, we've been out here working 16-hour days and we got a post in the ground. It was really hard. So we made the decision to just completely remove it because it was hard to...
I'm very similar when it comes to stand-up. So I don't consume stand-up comedy because I get influenced by it. And it's like, I don't want to know what you're doing. Because I can just go out and be like, hey, this is my rhythm. This is my cadence. This is how we talk.
I don't watch stand-up comedy either.
Do you find by consuming someone else that's doing what you're doing that it affects your voice and like your perspective
early
of it?
on, for sure. I can listen to like my first album and be like, oh, I know I was listening to a ton of Mitch Hedberg and Ron White back then. Cause like just cadence, the way like almost like it was a different voice, like physically a different voice. Whereas now I'm like, when I watch clips,
like when you first started out, you had this, you say it all the time, this bravado.
Like a bravado
you were trying to prove something.
Because the difference, we were talking about it the other day, the difference was for 18 years, I had to win over an audience because I was going up to, people weren't coming to see me. They were coming to see comedy. Which is the biggest like you don't go to a like music hall to see music. You go to see a specific artist. So comedy is a bit different, whereas I'm just going to go and see comedy. So my job was always win them over. So I had to have this like, and as a queer artist, like, cause I used to do 10 minutes of just stoner, like slow stoner jokes to win over all the guys on the rigs. Cause I'd be going to Medicine Hat, Edmonton, like Calgary. Like, so I'd do 10 or 15 minutes of that. And then I would slip a joke in about my husband and then do this whole bit about being an undercover gay and surprise, we're everywhere and we're recruiting. So drink up, boys. You know, like, but it was always this way of like being like, hey, you liked me for 15 minutes. And if you don't like me now, that's on you.
Yeah. I think that's really powerful though, to be able to, you're forcing someone to question their opinion of you.
And that was always the coolest thing after shows, dudes coming up and being like, I like tongue-tied on why they enjoyed it.
Did you find that happened often, or like how was that?
Every night.
Really?
I was spoiled. Like I really did, like, because we've always said like Jer hates it because I can bro out with the guys. Like we have
I don't hate it. I admire it.
Yeah, but
I mean, you
get
do
I don't hate it at all. It's just like I don't.
Like we've been broing out all weekend, right? It's just wrestling.
Chopping lumber.
But I admire that, and like I'm almost jealous of that because I can't do that.
But the difference with now going out on stage to come back to the circle is I don't have to win the audience over. I've already, like, them coming to the theater means we've won, and now we just get to celebrate. So I can be a little more vulnerable. Like in Halifax, like I almost started crying at the end. Like that
I told you got me
I
bad.
was very surprised by that. Because you just don't strike me as the type that would get emotional in public. Yeah. Because of your cold, dead heart.
Yeah. Like I don't get emotional in public.
Dead inside.
Yeah, but you're like, I have a couple breaths left. You've been rotting underground for a year.
Yeah.
He said you've been rotting underground for years.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you. No, it's my natural color.
But it really, like, it hit me. And
It hit me.
Yeah.
I didn't plan it. Like I said to Jer, I was like, I really hope I remember to thank Halifax before the end of the show for what they've done for my career before I was somebody, because they always turned up. And then when I started talking about it, I was like, oh, like, when I said to them, like, please understand how great, like, I'm getting choked up now.
Was it full circle? Like, wow, I worked so hard for this long.
This is what I've wanted.
Yeah.
All I've wanted was to come to cities I love and have 1,000 people hang out with me and listen. Like the joke we closed the show with is 10, 15 years old. And I said to Jer, I was like, I know it's super selfish, but all I've ever wanted to do was tell that story in a soft seat theater of 1,000 people. Like that was the dream.
I was like, you should tell it, because we do a part in the show too, where we ask the audience sometimes who knows you from stand up and who knows you from social media.
Yeah.
And almost the entire theater knows social media and not stand up. So I'm like, tell it. You go to a music, like go to a concert, you're expecting to hear the hits.
Yeah. So I'm like, even if you've heard it, you get to hear it live.
Yeah.
But it was definitely,
true.
I didn't expect, like, I literally was like, stop talking, you're going to burst. And so I was like, okay, thank you. Like, and I just took the moment and then went into the bit, because it was like, once I go into that bit, I'm not there. Like that bit is so well done that I'm doing my taxes.
But you change it up. Wow. It's different a little bit than it used to be.
Yeah, no, I
nice to keep it spicy.
Clearance sales new.
And that joke, I still laugh at every time.
It's a great joke. I'm a brilliant writer.
Being in the crowd though and experiencing everyone's reactions. And
because it was funny. We talked a lot about how much you were like, I'm uncomfortable with the idea of being around people fawning over you. Because I said, it was like, if you guys want to come and watch the meet and greet, like you can. It's weird. It's long. And you were like, nope, I'm not doing that. And I was like, what's he going to be like when he's around the entire theater talking about us? Like,
it was different.
What's that experience sitting in the audience? Because we don't get to see.
It was
I want to dress up and sit in the audience.
I think that is kind of why we were like, during intermission, we were so blown away, because being in a room like of 1,000 people, like it's hard to visualize what that looks like.
It's huge.
But I think what was big for us was looking over at Todd's parents and their best friends. Like they're all in their 60s and 70s, and it was truly like the best show that they've been at.
Well, we were nervous. We told you this. We were nervous because like I didn't know how my dad and his friends were going to react to like the sexual jokes. Dad thought the show was
couldn't breathe. Yeah. Like he was gripping his seat, like laughing, and to like look around. We had moments during the show where it was just, we were so proud, even though it's not like we're a part of it or like anything. It was just to see you shining. So it was
you
cool.
have this glow, like you're just so good at what you do, both of you.
I wish we could say the same. This is so emotional.
Clearly we're not good at what we do because we have a half finished house that
it's so funny. Like I don't mean to make jokes because I'm trying to be, I accept the compliment and thank you. But it's also just like, I don't think for the audience that doesn't know this, like Jer and I have been fans of you guys before we became friends. Like we went back, I texted it to you the other day. I messaged you in May 2019. Coincidentally, now that I put it together, the month Ashley died. And I was watching YouTubes and like, that's when I discovered you guys and just became a fan. Part of when we went to Europe, we were like, we should film a little episode like Tyler and Todd on the road.
I feel bad for the restraining order now.
I was just happy you wanted to restrain me. But what I was saying is we were fans of you guys. And I think one of the things,
because you were looking for joy. And you just needed joy in your life,
sure.
And your content just sparks joy and happiness.
And it was also just interesting. Like I was just like, it was beautifully shot. But I think the thing that I love about us, like the four of us, is there's never been a moment of competition. Mm-hmm. It has just been support. Like when you guys tell us about things, we're just like, this is amazing.
so
like,
happy.
and so like you guys coming to the show, that's why we were so nervous. Cause we were like, I just want to do right by our friends. Like, I just want to make sure that they get what we're trying to do. Cause I'm sure there's, out of 1,000 people, guarantee you 100 people don't like the show.
That.
And we see and exactly, I'm like, if you don't get it, that is, I feel so bad for you.
Yeah.
Because the only
But then it goes back to they're just having a bad day. Like they just got dumped or someone just died.
For
in their
sure.
life and they're
Death.
not ready.
So there was a death.
Is that so? You were kind of watching our content for escapism and joy. Is that what when you go up on stage and you're
absolutely,
that's what
Like
you
you're
want to
taking
give the
them away?
audience?
find whatever moment you need to be silly and just revel in it.
Yeah.
Like
we tell the audience, I'm like, just leave everything behind. And for these 90 minutes, just be here.
just be
and
silly.
Don't worry about anything. Like you're in a safe space. We're not going to call you out if you stand up and need to walk and stretch your legs or whatever.
Unless
We're
they're
not the
walking out the
typical.
door.
I thought that was cool that you did that. Like how you said, like, it's a safe space and not just about comments or derogatory terms, but also if you need to get up and walk.
Like it's a
Because
physically,
that's an anxiety for a lot of people going to a live show.
Yeah.
That if
especially
Especially
post-COVID.
comedy, but comedy as well.
For
like,
sure.
Because if you're
There's-
getting up, you always see the clips of being called out. But
Yeah.
what if I just got to go to the bathroom?
And
or
make
like,
no mistake, bravado, Darcy, 4 years ago, if you stood up during my show, I would follow you to the bathroom. I would put the microphone at the urinal.
Which
Why
I think
is
is a
that-
lot of people are afraid of that. at a show.
Exactly. And
was it you scared that they were?
no, I think I was just constantly like, where can I used to go
where can
wherever I
like,
need
get
to.
edgy or where can I-
Like whatever I need to do to get the laugh. Whereas now I'm like, where can I go to get the laugh that everyone can be involved in?
Yeah.
You say this a lot that you don't punch down.
I try not to. I did for a long time.
Well, I mean, you're so short most of the time. You have.
I bought lifts for the show in Halifax. I'm an inch taller on stage because of you two. It's like, when
Just
we
so
went
everyone
back-
knows, they are sitting on 2 pillows right now.
3 phone books.
I'm just a little garden gnome trying to find my way.
we had to put the shovel down.
Yeah. Jer's favorite thing whenever I'm in the garden doing things is at some point, like, just fix my toque so it's like this and give me a little shovel to hold.
I'm like, just hold this for a second. I
One of
just need to
Snow
look
White
at this.
dwarfs.
No, I think for me, I like since COVID and especially with our audience, I think we learned really early on that there are people that are dealing with obviously ADHD, neurodiversity. A lot of our fans are deaf and autistic, and they're doing like for them
You
to.
were also before there was auto captions. You would type out.
I
if we filmed a video,
physically
you would
typed
type out the
out
captions in every of our clips.
Wow.
from
So
the
people
get-go.
could enjoy the content.
Yeah, because I was like, why aren't people thinking about the hard of hearing community when it comes to online videos? And I was like, I will. So I would sit there and a 30-second video to write the captions and time it and everything take me hours. But I was like, I don't care. Like you
I
can
would
watch
literally
it,
be trying to write down it on my notes app.
and we'd copy and paste it. It was eventually they came up with auto captions. But no, the point I was trying to make.
I'm just as bad at going off.
The audience being like knowing the anxiety it takes for a lot of these people we have a lot of people that come to the show alone that just show up, and we had someone in one of the cities in the meet and greet have an anxiety attack, and we just took them aside, and Jer and I were just like, we get it, it's overwhelming, understand, like if you can't stay for the show, you message us afterwards, we'll figure something out, like, but just right now it's just the 3 of us, let's hang out for a few minutes, there's no rush here.
Wow.
And we just kind of hung out with him, and I was like, where's your seat? And he showed me his seat. I was like, if your seat's empty, don't worry about it, like I get it, but also understand when these
No
doors.
refunds, though.
Yeah. Well, no, I said to him, I was like, when the doors close for the show, you're going to feel the biggest hug in this room.
Yeah.
And I watched all night, and all night he was there. He sent us a message the next day being like, thank you. Like,
But now he might take a chance on going to another show.
for sure.
Yeah.
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 That is like, post-COVID, because a lot of people are scared to go out in public like that. And now to have an experience like that, they're like, oh, I can push myself a little bit further.
I think it's also having respect for the collective trauma of the last 3 years.
Yeah.
Like
it was a lot.
It was a lot. And I don't think
And
we've
we were
all
lucky
processed
to have each
it.
other, but like
We were all really
had
lucky.
Yeah. We were all creating content at a time where everyone was at home. And I think we provided company. I've thought a lot about this. Like, why does someone show up and watch us? Both of us. What's the motivation? And
Sex appeal.
Sex appeal, yeah. It's a big part of it. No, but the last 3 years, you're like, it's been so weird.
Yeah. And I think like, I always say to people, what did you turn to when everything shut down?
Yeah.
And you turned to the arts. Because the arts is comfort, the arts is feeling, the arts is emotion.
It's escapism.
It's escapism, but it's also community. It's comfort. It's everything that we are distracted from.
like everything that we felt in high school, why I was attracted to the theater, and the stagecraft, and everything else like that.
It's community.
It was community.
And then from that, we are so fortunate to have built these communities that want to spend time with us, and we respect them by calling them creeps in the most loving term.
Yeah.
It's endearing that you creep us.
We need to come up with a name. We don't have one. Just.
I was about to say one that was just terrible. I was like, oh no.
What was that?
No, I can't.
Too offensive.
Yeah, it's just,
It's an inside thought.
You're inside.
Yeah. I don't know. I think having the community helped us because it made us more accountable with everything over the last few years. Like with all the
Clearly
setbacks.
not.
No, but like with all the setbacks and stuff, I know we took time off when it hit too much and people would be like, what, you always take time off, but we would hit a wall and always had that separation, but it kept us accountable. It kept us going because we had to show up every Sunday with a video. So we had to be doing something and that helped us get through to keep making
it gave you something to drive.
Yeah.
Like it did.
Like quarantine would have been awful. I don't know what we would have done.
Especially like, knowing both of you two, like I think you would have just gone The Shining. Like
totally.
It would have been.
I had an axe and all. Like,
It could still happen, which is why I lock the guest room.
That's why we have it open. A ladder can
Don't
get
tell
in.
people where I sleep.
You've been giving out our address all day.
Just trying to make friends. I also want to point out we have been here for 29 hours and we have talked like
nonstop.
For those that don't, for everyone listening, our first FaceTime was 6.5 hours.
Yeah.
It was so late. Like it was
just so easy.
Even I think it would have been a lot less time. You couldn't get rid of us. At the end, you were like,
on the first one, I was like, guys, we were starving. It was like 10 p.m. You guys had we watched you eat dinner.
That's why we were like, we're good. Let's keep going.
Like, no, bitches, I've got to go. We have to walk our dog.
But it felt like instant.
It flew.
It flew.
To the point that anytime one of us is about to FaceTime the other, we go, oh, we're not getting anything done for the day.
That's the whole
we
night.
schedule it. Like have to plan when it is.
Yeah.
But I do
make
think
sure we eat before.
Bro, we're literally just like
the real.
5 minutes.
But that is a cool thing that the pandemic and like even though the last few years have been weird, do you remember when it was encouraged to like FaceTime friends because you weren't allowed to go visit people?
Yeah.
Zoom parties.
Oh yeah,
Zoom
we would do
parties and
it
stuff.
Every week.
Every week we'd have a games night. We'd do presentations. So every week we'd be like, Maureen, you have to do.
We would make quizzes.
Is this or that? And our friend Maureen would say, is this an animal anus or a human anus? And we would all have to like buzz in and be like, goat butt. And then it would zoom out and we're like, it's a goat butt. But every week we all had to do a presentation.
It was
Cahoots, but then we'd also do PowerPoint presentations on a fact that no one else should know. It was like, it gave us something to work towards. Like, but I actually feel like we had better visits with our friends then because we were all just in our home
Yeah.
where we want to be.
You didn't have to drive somewhere. You could.
What I'm saying is I want to go home.
I wish you were at home too.
I'm home. I wish you were. This is a nice Airbnb, though.
Yeah.
I think you guys have. Yeah, it's
I can't believe we
nice.
were able to rent it for 6 months.
It is the human connection. It's definitely nice, but I don't think that without the pandemic, we would have been able to get as comfortable. Like you being here feels like a really, really close friendship that we've made for years because we have.
He said friendship.
I know.
We've been clear. The contract says acquaintanceship.
Acquaintances.
I apologize.
Like,
collaborators.
yeah,
But
what's the point of a contract if we're not going to honor it?
It
Right.
reminds me a lot, not to get deep here again, but it reminds me, Todd and I spent like 9 months FaceTiming every day, getting to know each other before we ever met in person. And then when we met in person, we were so nervous leading up to it.
We met online too before. It was
We
okay
talked
to
for
meet on-
6
we
months.
talked for 6 months.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, we on MSN Messenger.
Oh, yes, I did know that.
Yeah. And so it's funny that you say that because like
That's where ours was MSN too.
if you guys had if we had DM'd,
Theirs was probably
and-
back when they were coding MSN.
yeah.
It's true.
Booting up the dial-up.
It was
Oh, that
definitely
I
dial
used to
up.
do like local chat boards, like dialed up.
ASL?
9 people. No, it was before that. It was called BBS. You could
BBS. Settle down.
Oh, I was like, that's later. That's the next collab.
Yeah.
We
But it was only 9 people that could be on at the same time, and it was all local to my community. And I found some really good
Is
friends.
that a rotary phone?
No, that's a party line. That's
Party line.
That's
Yeah.
how they called in to get his courses with his social insurance number.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
See, I would
I'm
never give it in
old.
case Betty next door was listening.
We I don't think if we hadn't done like the last year of FaceTiming, like if you guys had been like, oh, like we're gonna come to the show, come spend a couple days at the house after, I'd be like, enjoy the show.
Yeah.
Like maybe we'll go
Like,
for
we
a
would've
meal.
come visit for the
I was
day
really
kind of thing.
nervous.
We were
like,
nervous.
Were you?
Oh,
Really?
absolutely. Like originally, because we were meeting you guys at the hotel before
Yeah.
the show. And then I was like, I don't want that. I want to meet them after the show.
Yeah.
Like I'm like, we just need to get the show out of the way so we can relax and stuff. But then the second you guys came backstage, I was like,
Yeah,
oh,
it was
this
like
is
family.
this is exactly what we've
it
been
was so
waiting
Well, I mean, you
for.
had coolers and pizza. We were at home.
Yeah, exactly right.
Pushed you aside.
Here you
There's a
go.
cold stream over there.
Yeah, it was. And then we took you to the casino and taught you how to gamble and changed your life forever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is our last night in the house.
Do you know what? Just a little fun tangent side story. I really don't like gambling just because I don't know how it works. Like I'm just not good at it. And Darcy was like, no, you're gambling. You are
In a
gambling.
responsible way, for the record.
Yeah. Just for like fun.
Yeah.
So he gave me some play money and
No, it was real.
it was
Just because it's Canadian.
It just looks beautiful.
But it was really fun because I'm not like a high risk kind of guy like that, but it was cool because then you taught me how to play blackjack. You said like, this is
Yeah.
what I would do in this hand. And I actually
And we
won
play
you.
minimum bets. Like we don't bet a lot.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
We, well,
Yeah,
we
to
also
clarify.
hadn't played for 10 years.
Yeah.
So it was also just fun for us in the sense of like, I can't believe we're doing this.
Yeah, it wasn't like there were like hundreds on the table
No.
or anything. There were really small bets, but even betting $20 on something.
Oh, yeah.
If I would rather go
You
to
look
Subway and get
sick.
a foot long. I was
you
sick.
look sick. And that's why I kept looking over at you and I was like, it's okay. Like everything I gave you, I plan to lose, but just follow our lead.
But I was sick at the prospect of losing your money.
Oh,
if
I
it was
know.
my money, well, I wouldn't have. I wouldn't have been there.
I was-
I wouldn't
You
have.
specifically was like, you
Todd
were-
didn't even play.
I don't
He couldn't
gamble.
even take your money. I took your money. I
don't-
took what you were
I
offering
did,
me
'cause
and Todd.
I was like, I gave you both $40, and then you took both the
Todd
40
said
and
no.
said, let's make it an even 100, and then walked over to the table, and I was like, okay, here we go, girl.
But
I think the only thing I was uncomfortable with though was that
The
you
touching.
and you made him call you daddy and look you in the eyes.
Yeah.
So,
but if someone's going to give me $100, calling them daddy, like
Yeah.
if there's
Honestly.
anyone else out there,
I'm not gay. I just didn't want to work in my old job anymore. Tyler had an ad up and I applied.
the rest is history.
But even like for us, gambling, like it's I'm like you. It stresses me out.
Yeah.
Oh, we would never.
Because I remember like when it makes such a difference for us. But we always had a rule, like we would go say whatever our limit was for that day, like what we were prepared to lose for our entertainment for that night.
Yeah.
If you double that, you put your starting money back in your pocket. And then whenever you run out of your money that you're playing with, you just got
done.
2 or 3 hours of entertainment
Yeah.
for that.
We're so glad I did
20
that.
minutes.
I did that when
I kept every time I would doubled, I'd
Yeah.
you know, like cash up or cash out, and then I looked
If it's
over
on
and I
the
was
table,
like,
you're going to use it.
but you also, for the record, when
did
you
well.
took that $100, you said, when we leave here, I'm going to give you $100 and I will have $100.
Yeah, well, that's an IOU on that one.
Did you not win?
No, he
Nothing.
gave-
I left with $10. You got your money back.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Oh, and then it was reckless behavior. That's the thing.
Oh, I didn't notice
because
that.
I
paid you back.
You left the
Ruined it.
table, and then I was like, "Well, I don't know how to play blackjack."
Did you guys not all leave when I left?
No, we kept playing.
I lost all my
you
money.
idiots. You leave when Darcy leaves.
Yeah.
I stayed at the table as well because I was now winning because you left and I was getting.
I lost
changed
all
it.
my money.
Oh,
I had $10
hilarious.
left.
I literally thought everyone was behind me. I was like, I'm going to take $20 and put it in this big machine. No, because we were
got
playing
distracted.
and I turned and saw this big machine and I was like, yeah, I guess I just grab all the
You were
chips
just
and
gone.
walked away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we were like, well, where did he go?
How did we get on that though?
I have no idea. After our show when we met you,
Yeah, tangent.
because we were nervous.
Really is
Oh, wow. Jer's taking notes.
yeah, he'd never
He got us
forget.
back on
Do you know
track.
where I was really nervous was before we went to the casino and we were in the hotel lobby and you had the champagne in the hotel lobby after
Worst
your show.
wine I've ever drank, by the way.
Oh, it was
so
trash.
Yeah.
Eric doesn't
I
drink.
warned you beforehand. I was like, I do not.
It was called
know.
Santa Margarita
The entire
Prosecco.
time there, though, when you were doing that, I was like, are they allowed to do this? Did
We're
they
allowed
ask
to do
for
whatever we
permission?
want.
But I didn't know. I was
Absolutely.
I was stressed out.
Never ask permission. Wait to give them permission.
Oh, I'm the
Permission,
I can't
forgiveness.
do that.
I can't do
No,
that.
I
absolutely.
cannot do that.
Do you know how much money we were given that hotel that night? We were fine. With 7 rooms, they can let us
I'm a
have a
rule
little
follower.
champagne.
Did you ask?
Because if
before?
everyone's not following the
Absolutely
rules,
not. We
then
just
we've
asked
got
for-
chaos.
Yeah.
We
They
just
didn't
said,
ask. They didn't ask.
no, of
I
course
thought you
not.
did, because how did you get the Starbucks cup?
We just said we need some cups. They know what's going on. But as long if I had popped the bottle and shot it across the room, that's why I popped it the way I did.
But it was fine when you like shook it up and poured it all over me.
obviously everybody needs a moment.
It just
You'll do anything to get your shirt
the
off.
way the prosecco glistened on my tits as it went down. You know,
I'm sure people are really enjoying their time, but you looping it back.
Mm.
Do you worry about that when you're creating content or you're up on stage that you want people to be entertained, you want it to be valuable?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And we
Yeah.
respect their time.
Yeah.
Like we said, it's a 90-minute show.
We stick
We
to
stick
it.
to
We
it.
don't go over, but we also think the
And
show's
it's
too
hard to
long.
do, especially
oh
90
no, I
minutes
think it
is
was
long.
good.
Yeah.
I if it was up to me, we wouldn't do.
we think it's 10 minutes too long.
Yeah, I would do like 80 minutes, but we also want to make sure it's value for their money. So the 90-minute, because with intermission, we're looking at like almost 2 hours. But yeah,
Some of our tickets are $40, so I'm like, 80
we're
minutes,
really
that's $2 a
underpriced
minute.
for a live show in today's market with inflation and stuff. I think we've priced it well.
We want it
I
to be
asked a simple
affordable.
question and now you're on a tangent about how great.
What was your
What was your
question?
question?
I don't
Are we
remember.
valuable? I don't know. It's fucking midnight now. I started that question at 11.
What was the question?
I don't know.
I think. Okay.
I'm not Diane Sawyer. Like,
Well, maybe it's time for some tea.
yeah, I think
Oh my God, we haven't even gotten to the tea.
we haven't even gotten to the tea.
You can have the tea.
All right, tea time is your chance to send in an anonymous story to us. You've either lived it or you've overheard it, but we want the chance to give you some really bad, unprofessional, non-legally binding advice that we would do in theory if we were in that situation.
Okay, so the first one, I'm going to read it. Mainly I read just because,
We've seen the show.
Because you like control.
Yeah.
yeah.
I like when he takes control too.
I'm curious about your thoughts on the LGBTQ plus community and its lack of inclusivity. As a bi male, I struggle a lot with the community's insistence on putting people into boxes, despite the fact that the community was formed from not fitting into traditional societal boxes. Two ways that I've been personally impacted are being bi. People assume that I'm closeted and experimenting. And then also being verse, having a twink body type apparently means I'm automatically a bottom and would never top. Why do you think there is so much exclusivity in a community that is supposed to be based on love, kindness, and acceptance?
I don't know, but he sounds so hot. A top bi twink.
Verse.
Like,
We'll put
you
their
should be
email
accepted
below.
with-
Yeah, you are accepted in this household, and I don't even own this Airbnb.
Do you know what's actually really funny? So when we pull these questions, we do them as the order that they've come in. We don't pre-plan them.
Yeah,
We're not vetting them in advance. We talk about this all the time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this
Like
is
as
a
a
very relatable,
Very,
topic
very.
for anybody.
Well,
in the
especially
community.
like bi erasure happened with toxic masculinity because
Yeah.
it became, like in the 60s and 70s, and it became like, I think AIDS had a lot to do with men being like less involved in queer culture. But I've always said like my favorite word to describe the community is queer, because it's like it's not about being a gay man or a trans female or a bi male. Like it's just about being in the community. For me. I know some people don't like the term, but I don't give a fuck.
But like technically, like I identify as gay, but technically I really feel like I'm probably bi. I
Yeah, you
made a baby.
nutted in a lady.
Yeah.
True. Yeah, I guess you do have a daughter.
Ew, stinky.
But
You could be
you're not a
5%
gold
attracted
star
to that, but
gay.
it's all- yeah.
Oh,
like,
God.
Well,
that-
you've been with a girl.
Yeah, like I mean, I've had sex with women before. I've never talked about it on the podcast, but that you are put into a box. Like you're not a gold star gay. Like
Yeah.
there's certain levels of it, and which is ridiculous.
Oh,
like,
it is. Yeah. I think it's just like you always have to, no matter what the community is, whether it's gay community, whether it's church community, there are toxic people that will not allow happiness to happen.
Yeah.
And you just have to rise above it. And,
Yeah.
and there are not a lot of bisexual people leading in the community.
There's no representation.
There
And
really
so
isn't.
there needs to be. And
Bi erasure is a really
it's terrifying because
yeah.
I see it in like we have friends that I know are bisexual, and I can see the struggle and see the pain in their inability to understand it themselves because they don't have the exposure to it.
And I think it's getting harder because there is so much hate for the community in general now that you're
for
seeing
sure.
people not wanting to have those conversations or that attention on them. And they're just kind of like,
But a lot of the hate is coming from people that don't understand themselves and the thoughts they have. Like, imagine, like, I remember being a teenager and being like, this is before you could just Google, am I gay? And being like, something is different with how I'm hearing my best friend Jeff talk about girls. How come I'm not? Imagine being bi and being like, wait, what do you mean? Like, I can have that or that? Like, my first boyfriend was
so
bi,
confusing.
and he was miserable until we figured it out, like through talking about it and being like, I guess you like both.
Yeah,
it
which
would be
is okay.
very confusing because like it is kind of set up. You're either gay or you're straight. Like there's no in between.
Yeah.
Like,
But going back to that, what that person was saying though about like society's boxes and stuff, I really think the reason people struggle with bisexuality and why bi erasure is
greedy.
no, he's joking. But I think people like it when everything is neatly wrapped up in a bow and they can understand. You don't need to understand.
Was that Halifax show when we had the mom or the parent write in about their son coming out? And I said, it's not a parent's job to understand.
Yeah, it was
it's a
Halifax
parent's
show.
job to show up.
Yes.
And I think that's the same for the community.
Can you say that again?
I said it's not a parent's job to necessarily always understand what their kid's going through. It's a parent's job to show up for what their kid's going through.
I think the boxes isn't when you're put in a box, because even we felt that, and we still do, that we don't fit the mold of a same-sex couple or like a gay couple. And I think it took us a long time to understand that that's nothing against us or our relationship or what we want out of life. It's people that, for whatever reason, are not willing to open their mind and see past what the stereotype they have is.
Yeah.
And
It's funny because the thing that used to irritate me all the time is people would always say that, oh, you guys are Cam and Mitchell from Modern Family. And I would always go,
We get that so much.
I feel bad that that's your only reference to this community, because it's like, yeah, I'm a fat guy and Jer's a skinny guy. That is the only.
Yeah, that's the only.
In comparison,
used to be.
In comparison, that's the only common thread you're actually seeing.
Yeah.
You know,
which is a fraction of a percent of what you bring to the table, your perspective, all of
sure.
it.
But they think they're like doing you like, I see you. I get where they're coming from, but they don't understand how offensive that is because you're not actually seeing me.
Right.
Yeah.
I struggled a lot coming to terms with my sexuality. Like, I was so confused. I had no frame of reference for what was going on in my life until I was a little older. But like, it's so cheesy to say, but there was a movie. It was called Chasing Amy. It was like part of Mallrats and like Clerks and stuff like that.
It's
but it was
Kevin
Chasing
Smith.
Amy,
the
Kevin Smith movie. And there was a line in that movie where there was a bi person and they were like, why limit myself to half the population when my perfect soul could be male or female or anything?
Yeah. I just don't think that there should be
it still
boxes
resonates with me now.
for anything. It's like, I wouldn't put you two in any kind of like queer box, you know, like I'd put you in a casket.
But the
Just
thing
drop
is,
us in the lake.
but we've never, I think the reason our relationship, the reason we've connected with you so well is if we're going to be in a box, we're really not in a box in the queer community. We're in like our own different box. We've always felt like outcasts in the queer community. We've never felt like we felt
included in the queer
Try being
community.
fat in the queer community.
Yeah, we fit in the like
ostracized.
beat up box that's misshaped and like, wow, that's been through a rainstorm and fell off the back of a FedEx truck.
That's been ridden hard and put away wet. Thank you.
You almost get envious of like, is something wrong with me that I'm not? I don't feel
I think
of that community.
I think you just speak to the freak flags that connect with you, whether it's in the community or not. Like, we're spoiled rotten with the communities we both have.
But that I think, to take it like totally full circle about what we're talking about today, is the communities that we've created. I think we were all naive in thinking that we're on our own, that this is like we're not a part of the gay community.
Yeah,
but
I think there's a lot of people out there.
There's a lot of people that feel that way.
Yeah.
We aren't the stereotypical representation. We're not going out to the clubs. We're not like what the media presents of what you should be as a gay man.
I very rarely meet them outside of LA. Like that stereotypical thing outside of a big metropolis. And even in them, there is a small population, but like most people in the community.
At shows all the time. I'm like, oh, okay. Like like when we were in Fredericton.
It's so funny because it's like, yeah, go.
I was going to say, when we were in Fredericton, the lesbian stage manager came up to us after the show and she was like, I just need you to know that every queer for miles is at this show tonight and they are so happy to be in a room that is just like queer love and fun and everything. She's like, we don't get this here. So it was like, and looking around, and by that I mean she meant ugly people.
Darcy.
He's joking.
He's joking.
But it's true. Even in Halifax,
I'm kidding.
There's not a lot of places that you can go and actually like. making jokes about, like, there were jokes about your relationship and sex and stuff, but seeing same sex on a stage, like, it's not something you see even.
No one's doing
I
what
also
we're
think
doing.
there's a lot
Yeah.
of progress too. Like, I think that there's like way more people in our box than we think. And I think it's
so
just
far we've
progress
only
that
fit
like
2, but
that
we're working
like
on
the
it.
older generations fought so hard to do that, and now just to be accepted, like we can just go about our lives in our own way.
I think we have time for another sip of tea.
Sure, it's only been 5 hours.
He gets lippy when he gets comfortable.
We ready? Hey, so a coworker of mine has just left her husband. This coworker and I have had a friendship for about 2 years, and ever since, she's talked about her relationship with her husband, and I told her to just leave him. And she has said that she wanted to, so I've encouraged her. But I am an asexual and I've never had a long-term relationship, and now I feel bad for encouraging her to actually leave her husband. I feel like those talks should have been more listening and less advice. I don't know. Do you think that I should have taken more of a back seat and just listened to my friend and not actually give advice? I feel like she probably would have gotten there without me, but what if they get back together? Where does that leave me? I don't know. It's just something that doesn't sit right with me. Thanks for letting me do this. I think I might have to talk and tell her about my regrets. That's interesting.
No,
I
not
wouldn't
at all.
regret.
Yeah,
You're
I would-
objective.
You
Like,
cannot control other people's decisions, and if you're allowed to give your opinion, you're allowed to be a sounding board. We always
But
say
it also
that,
depends on the situation.
Did she tell you to
is she
stop
asking
talking?
for the advice?
Yeah.
I don't think that you need to have a whole amount of experience in order to chime in. Look at what we're doing right now.
Yeah, I'm
We don't-
chiming in way more than I should be.
And you got no experience.
no experience.
But you
like Todd, when you called a bitch about Tyler, I don't have experience of fighting with him because I think he's great.
Yeah,
But I
and you
let
guys have
go.
a perfect marriage, so you don't know what it's like to fight with a spouse.
I think it's totally fine though to give your unqualified opinion and advice, to chime in. You're just giving your perspective. What someone chooses to do with that, that's on them.
And you're
100%.
monetizing it.
Yeah. Thanks. Thanks for writing in.
Yeah, I wouldn't feel bad because she was coming to you, and it sounds as though it was more than one conversation. So after one, like if I give an honest feedback to someone that comes to me for advice and they don't come back for more advice, then I'll take the
that's on
hint.
you.
Yeah.
But if they come back for a follow-up, well, like I'm not gonna waver on my opinion. I'm gonna stick with it.
At the end of the day, that person was not in the relationship. You don't know what's going on, but you can give an outside opinion. Were you about to cut me off?
She's about to turn into a pumpkin. I think it's time to wrap this up.
Trying so hard to hide a yawn, and then Tyler looked at me and I was like,
It's always when I'm talking. He gets so bored of me.
it's sweet.
Well, I mean,
Mary
I
and
tuned out. I
Joseph.
don't even know what you're talking
I don't
about.
either.
Was he talking? I
I
thought we
tuned
were
out
just
to
sitting here
myself.
quiet. Well, where can people find you if they've got no time?
Why are we ending such a love fest on such a bitter Betty moment? What's the email
drank too
address
much
to send
tea.
in the tea?
Oh, tylerandtodd.com/podcast.
Great.
Or tangents at tylerandtodd.com.
Can you pass me my phone?
I have no idea where it is.
I'm sending in some tea. I was recently sitting with what I thought were my friends. We were having a friendly conversation. And
Much to my surprise.
Yeah, much to my surprise, Tyler and Todd are fucking assholes.
Thank you for joining us for another episode. We're going to put all the links down below for where you can find Darcy and Jer.
But in case they don't want to look down below, where can they find you?
DarcyandJer.com.
Just Google Darcy and Jer.
Thank you guys so much for being here. This was so much fun.
I love you guys.
I wasn't given a choice.
Is that why you've been so quiet all night?
He's been held against as well. In all seriousness, thank you for joining us. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Bye.
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 Bye.